Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Cyber Risk Management Briefing. The agenda for today includes risk assessment overview, software assurance topics, software development lifecycle, supply chain risk, existing software vulnerabilities, software options for the organization, recommendations for software improvement, recommendations for supply chain improvement, supply chain cost, and contract language. An overview of the risk management process consists of identifying needs and expectations of the organization, describing attributes of our current software development methodology, identifying supply chain risks, evaluating software options for the organization, evaluating and recommending supply chain options and costs, and recommending contract language. So what is software assurance? Software assurance can be viewed simply as the level of confidence in the software that the organization uses. Major components of software assurance are the verification that the software is free from vulnerabilities, either intentional or unintentional, and that the software performs as expected. Software assurance is important because it ensures that processes, procedures, and products conform to all requirements and standards. It ensures that software systems are secure and provides quality, safety, and reliability for software. The software development cycle we use focuses around the Agile method and DevSecOps. Agile is a process to develop software consisting of short release cycles that are called sprints. These short release cycles allow the customer to provide feedback that can be included in the next sprint cycle. DevSecOps was a development method that was born out of Agile. This development method allows for better collaboration between the development, security, and operations teams to ensure that at every phase of development, security of the software is considered. It allows for fast deliveries and allows for secure, safe, and reliable deployments. While being security focused, it allows loopholes and weaknesses to be identified before the software is released to production, providing better quality control. The complexity of supply chains require an assessment of the types of risks involved and the related factors that may cause them. These risks are interrelated and include supply risks, demand risks, and operational risks. Supply risks impact elements of inbound supply, implying that a supply chain is unable to meet the demands in terms of quantity and quality of parts. The outcome is labeled as a supply disruption. Concerns with supply chain include counterfeit items, critical components that can have vulnerabilities built in, and interception and modification of software and/or components during this shipping process. Insider threats should also be considered, as these are one of the easiest ways for attackers to infiltrate networks. These risks can be mitigated by vetting vendors, managing insider threats appropriately, by using rules of engagement, and adhering to mandates and regulations such as the ISO 28000 series, ISO 20243, the NEST SP 800-161, and more. Acceptable use policies should be in place to inform those who have access to IT network systems and services of proper use. Demand risks impact elements of the outbound supply chain where the fluctuation of demand is unexpected. This is labeled as demand disruption. Operational risks impact elements within a supply chain, impairing its ability to supply services, parts, or finished goods within the standard requirements of time, cost, and quality. Transportation is one of the biggest operational risks. Environmental, geopolitical, economic, and technological factors also impact supply chains. Environmental factors considered to be factors that have the highest probability of occurrence and can be the least effectively mitigated since they tend to be uncontrollable. Natural disasters, such as earthquakes, hurricanes, etc., and extreme weather are within this category. Geopolitical factors tend to have a high probability, mostly conflicts and trade restrictions, but supply chain actors have a level of influence on the outcome. The most significant economic factors relate to demand shocks often associated with political or economic sudden changes. Price volatility is also a concern since it has an important impact on input costs. Technological factors such as transportation infrastructure failures are fairly rare, so the most important technological concern involves IT infrastructure disruptions. As supply chain management increasingly rely on information technologies for its management and operations, any information system failure has important and could be severe ramifications. This slide highlights a short list of existing software vulnerabilities for Windows software. Our enterprise servers, web servers, and rack mount interfaces are currently running Windows Server 12, and our workstations and desktops currently run Windows 10. According to known and reported software vulnerabilities, primary high-risk vulnerabilities to our systems are remote code execution. As you can see, the Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures database lists several hundred vulnerabilities that should be investigated and mitigated if possible. Because different operating systems can sometimes have issues with working together, we have standardized our operating system platforms for better interoperability. Recommended and currently in use are Windows 10, Windows Server 12, and any bring your own device updated to the latest operating system and security patch. These BYOD devices include iPhones, iPads, Android devices, and Android tablets. Linux 10 will be used for specialty servers as required. Mac operating systems are not recommended for the enterprise environment due to software incompatibilities and potential configuration issues. If a need arises, Apple product workstations or laptops can be considered. For asset inventory, with many options available, we recommend Hewlett-Packard's Asset Manager or AgileSoft Asset Management software. Device scanning tools should cover many different scenarios, operating systems, and functionality features. We recommend a multi-tool chest for scanning software that includes open source software like Nmap, Nessus, OpenVAS, Snort, and Wireshark. At-cost software like Forescout, Counter-ACT, and Tanium endpoint platforms should be considered for more advanced scanning to meet organizational needs if required. For network access control, the Cisco NAC appliance is recommended. For PKI, a combination of Microsoft PKI and VeriSign with the use of RSA tokens for two-factor authentication is recommended. For dynamic host configuration protocol, Windows Active Directory DHCP services is recommended for central management of IP addresses within the network. And for logging, Alien Vault Unified Security Management and FireEye Threat Analytics platform are recommended. System logging should be enabled on the network using pre-installed logging software as well. Recommendations for software improvements include creating a software process improvement plan, creating a security and patch management policy, and the use of cyber risk management software. Patch management involves acquiring, testing, and installing patches or code changes as needed to computer systems to mitigate known exploitable vulnerabilities. Cyber risk management software is used to manage and mitigate cyber risk. A software process improvement plan gathers all information required to address process improvement issues that occur during software development. Recommendations for supply chain improvements include defining and identifying the most important vendors, specifying primary contacts for those vendors, improving supply chain traceability and monitoring, requiring guidelines and controls for consistent processes to include requiring organizations to include vendor supply chain risk management practices and procedures in their service level agreements, and familiarizing oneself and leveraging existing federal acquisition regulations. Guidelines can be found in DFARS, FARS, and ISO and IEC standards. The supply chain costs includes assessing the process and vendors and then developing and enforcing the recommendations that are provided. $236,000 and $401,000 captures the initial and one-time costs, while $184,000 includes continuous monitoring and patching. Contract language is a basic principle to ensure sound solutions. The time spent upfront on clarifying requirements will mitigate ambiguous language and phrases that can lead to contentious litigation. Several tips include specifying exact times, exact payment obligations, and clear quality controls. Rather than ambiguous language such as best quality or close of business, cite standards and existing policy to minimize confusion. This slide gives examples on how to address specific contract clauses in regards to supply chain risk management. Specific recommendations defining rationale, like citing the regulation driving the recommendation, and ensuring that contract language is specific removes potential ambiguity, which will decrease risk. Thank you all for your attention during this cyber risk management briefing. I will now open the floor for questions.